I'd love to start at the beginning, but I'm going to start at the end, about the very last shot that we saw. How did that come about, and why was it important for Tommy that it was in the film?
Um, so that scene was not supposed to be in there. Scott, you did not write that scene originally,
I
right?
definitely wrote a version. I worked really
But
hard.
not in the original draft.
Not in the original draft.
Right.
Whatever we wrote, Tommy was like, "Yeah, I'm not saying any of that."
Okay, well, we'll back it up. I had to get Tommy's life rights, and his big point in his contract was that he have a scene in the movie. And that was fine. I mean, honestly, like, I thought that would be cool, like a little Hitchcock nod, and if he's in the background, like there was a sequence that got cut out of the movie where Greg's character shoots this movie that's maybe even worse than The Room, called Retro Puppet Master. We shot this scene in Romania, and I kept trying to suggest to Tommy that, yeah, maybe you want to be in the Romanian scene. He's like, no, have to be opposite James. I have to be in scene with James. And he didn't know, he didn't read his contract very well, and it said we just had to shoot it. We didn't have to put it in the movie. So he shows up. We didn't know what he was going to do. And he was actually really sweet. He said, 3 days before, he texted me and he said, I want my character to be named Henry. I'm like, all right, okay, fine, Henry, it's fine. And then he sent me a photo. He was obviously in lens crafters. There were rows of glasses behind him, and he had glasses on. And he's like, "What you think of glasses for character?" I'm like, "They're great. They're great for Henry." Yeah, I can't tell it's you. I can't tell it's
He
you.
drew that mustache.
And then he drew a mustache.
So weird.
He had drawn a mustache on, like with Bic pen, like little soul patch or something. And he said, if you like mustache, I draw it on better when we shoot. And I was just like, well, I mean, what kind of movie does he think we're making? Anyway, I was like, look, I'll get you a fake mustache and whatever. And so obviously he's like trying to, hide who he is, but like it's impossible, right? And when I watched that scene, I'm like surprised. I actually was trying to make it work. My editor put it in the first assembly, and we watched it. We're like, okay, get that out of there. And anyway, we had shot, and then we were so proud of the recreations of the room scenes that we had done, which were originally only going to be used in the premiere scene. But we were so proud of our work. We're like, well, we need to do a side by side for the credits, and we hadn't negotiated for the room footage, and so we had to go back to him and negotiate for that. And during that negotiation, he's like, well, how am I seeing? And somebody was like, it's not in there, and he is like, well, you want my footage? You have to put my scene in. At first, we were like, oh no, what are we gonna do? And then we realized we could do like a Marvel tag, and it would be perfect for the super fans, and it would be awesome. So it worked out.
I think there, but for the grace of God, go a lot of filmmakers. That Tommy wanted to make a movie. He believed in himself. He was going to overcome every obstacle and do that. So is that kind of the spirit of the adaptation, to not be judgmental, but to celebrate the spirit of Tommy fighting this fight against all odds?
Yeah, that absolutely was. I mean, we were introduced to the room via the memoir. I read about 5 or 6 chapters. All I knew was the billboard from living here, and I stopped reading and I said, I got to watch this thing. And I watched it the worst way you can, which is on your laptop by yourself. And my writing partner, he was like, should I watch it? And we were like, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't watch it. Don't watch it. We're not writing a story about like a movie. We're writing a story about these people and what they did. And we really related to them. We were kids from the East Coast who dreamed of making movies. That's all we ever wanted to do. We didn't know how to do it. We didn't know that it was possible to do it. And it was one of those sort of super inspiring stories of these guys who just went and did it. And they didn't just make a movie. They made a movie that people are quoting and seeing on repeat, and still talking about almost 15 years later. Which honestly, it's like we're envious. It's incredible. And so there was never any derision. There was never any let's make fun of this. Our biggest fear was that like when you guys sent us the book, James and Seth Rogen and his producing partners we didn't know you guys, and we were like, well, we're not. If they want to do like a shot-for-shot remake, or if they want to do like a This Is the End kind of comedy about like a Bowfinger comedy about movie making, we were probably the wrong people for that. We're not funny. That's for sure. But when we all sat down and talked about it, it was like, we want to try to do something like Ed Wood or Boogie Nights or Sunset Boulevard or any of these movies that we all kind of love. And we saw it that way from the beginning.
James, I want to understand the math of what it was like on set. So you were directing yourself as Tommy directing the other actors in the room in which you're also acting. So how do you get through clearly what it is you are on a given day, and are you directing as Tommy or as James?
It was weird.
Yeah, it was weird. It's right. I've talked about this to a bunch of audiences, and nobody has come up with another example of a movie. And I didn't realize it when we were doing it, but of a movie where the director was acting in it, playing a director who's also acting in his own movie, and then stayed in character when he directed. Now, yeah, so I'm sure it was bizarre and weird, and the more we talk about it and I think about it, I'm like, yeah, that was kind of weird.
It was an adjustment period for everyone. I got used to it a little bit quicker than most, just because he's my brother and there's not much he can do that surprises me anymore. But like Seth Rogen took him a full week to get to the point where he didn't just laugh in his face every time he looked at him. But it just, I mean, honestly,
You're
it all
more
put
of a pro than Seth Rogen, obviously.
Exactly. But
But Dave, you said to James, are you Tommy or are you James? Who are you now?
It wasn't as black and white as that. It was just something, eventually, it just became this weird meta thing that all just kind of put us in the right headspace.
You guys would address me as Tommy. I didn't ask for that, but I think you and Mike.
I forgot
Hey,
who
Tommy,
you
I have
look.
notes.
I forgot you were like a handsome dude. Like we forgot what you looked like. Weber
not
tells the best
handsome?
story. Yeah, he's a good-looking guy on set. Oh my god. Weber tells the story that like there was only one
Obviously
day.
beauty, of course.
Yes, of course. One day on set, you didn't have to do the makeup. Literally, only one day. And that day, you showed up as this and talked normal. And the next day, you showed up in the thing again, and the van pulls up, and you got out of the van, and you go, "Where was everybody yesterday?" as if there's a disconnect, and like. That's the kind of thing that was so fun, and what a wild experience we had.
Dave, is it inevitable that as you're making a movie about a friendship, about Tommy and Greg's friendship and their relationship, that you think about your relationship to your brother and where it mirrors your story about two guys who want to make a movie together and where your stories overlap?
Good question. So just going back, this is the first time we've worked together in a substantial way, and that's my fault.
Say no.
When I was first starting out, I did make a conscious decision to distance myself from him work-wise, just because I wanted to pave my own path and just do my own thing. And then it just felt like the right timing. It felt like the right project. We understood this dynamic really strongly. We did some videos for the website funnyordie.com about 10 years ago where he plays a crazy acting teacher and I'm his student who looks at him like he's a crazy man. And so it was actually the exact dynamic that we have in this movie. And so I think you can talk about this. I think that's why when you read the book, you immediately knew that we could do this together. And in regards to just their friendship and then our relationship as brothers, what do you got?
I came out to Hollywood alone, and then after 12 years, I went to NYU for film school for directing. And I would say to myself, or I think maybe even out loud, like, man, I would just wish I had a close collaborator. I just want my own Coen brother. And I didn't realize, I got my own Franco brother that I can work with, and I think Dave's a great actor, and he's an amazing actor. And I had wanted to work with him a few times before this, and he had said no. So when I was reading the book, often you read something as that's source material, and you just get a feeling, the hairs rise on the back of your neck, and and often you'll get images or scenes will pop out, and you're like, ooh, that's the kernel. Like, I just want to recreate that, and then it kind of builds from there. And the things I got here were I had a way into Tommy. I knew I knew I could get in there. I understood it somehow or intuitively, and I knew that I wanted Dave for Greg. So I remember telling one of the producers, Vince Jolivet, like, oh, I hope Davey doesn't say no to this one. Wait, can you ask him? I mean, I don't want him to say no. And he's like, you ask him. He's your brother. It'll mean a lot. And I was like, oh. All right. And I guess I tried to act casual. I was like, Dave, why don't you watch this movie, The Room? And
yeah, and then I had not seen it, and so like Scott, I watched it alone for the first time in a hotel room, and I would not recommend that to anyone, just because you want to watch it with a group so you can turn to people and be like, what the fuck is going on? So I finished that viewing just feeling very unsettled and not really knowing how to feel. But then, so I guess I didn't immediately say yes. But then I went to one of the midnight screenings where people are, yelling at the screen and throwing spoons. And I immediately understood the cult status of it. And since then, we've both seen The Room more than any movie in existence, which, there's something to be said about that.
James, Scott, and Dave, thanks for sharing.
Thank
this
you.
with us.